Welcome to Albinism Talk with Marvelyn, with your host, Marvelyn Green. Before I introduce to you our amazing guest, please remember to follow Yell for Change on all social media platforms. And please remember to also subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you would like to take part in the Yale and Yellow campaign, please send your pics to Y4C's Instagram page. All race and ethnic backgrounds are also welcome. Without further ado, we have an amazing guest in the room tonight. She's all the way from South Africa. She is a wife, she is a businesswoman, and she is an inspiration to the PWA community. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Boni Crystal Roberts. How you doing, Boni? Welcome to Albinism Talk with Marvelyn from the UK. How you doing, my sister?
Thank you. I'm good. I'm blessed and I suppose grateful that we live by his grace day by day.
Amen. So, Ronnie, just to give a little introduction about you to the audience who do not know about you. So, can you just give a little intro about yourself, what you do, quote unquote?
Sure. My name is Boni Crystal Roberts. I am from South Africa. I am the CEO of an electric vehicles company in Africa called Agility South Africa. And what else? I am a wife. I am a mother of one very naughty, almost 3-year-old girl. I am a daughter, a sister, an advocate of justice and what is overall right. I don't like the term feminist, but I do very much believe that women are supposed to be treated equally to men in every way, shape, or form. And I believe we've used religion and other sources of patriarchy to continue to, I suppose, reduce women to nothing more than, ovens for babies and domestic duties for the pleasure of men. So I'm an advocate all around for everything that is right and justice, I suppose.
Awesome. That's amazing that you advocate for woman power. Yes, I love that. So, Bonnie, the question I'm going to ask you, the obvious question I'm going to ask you. I know that you are a person with albinism, so I'm going to ask you firsthand, when you was little or younger, what age did you notice that you was different from your family members?
Sure. I think I can't remember the exact age. I just know that in my family, certain things were a norm. So I think it might have taken long because we all wore sunscreen. We all wore hats. Nobody played in the sun. We all played in a shade for a certain period of time, so they made it that it just became the norm for everybody. And for some reason, all our friends came to play in our yard. We never went out to visit other friends. I think it only dawned on me later on that it might have been that my aunt, who was raising me at the time, and subsequently thereafter my mother, might have had a chat with the parents of those kids or something. But when I was a kid, we never had differences, particularly in the family. I only started noticing treatment when you leave the confines of your home, of the 4 walls of the house and of the 4 walls of the fence, I suppose, of the yard. And when you get out there into the world, that's when you got people calling you names, kids calling you white. And then there were other names that were created in the community to refer to people with albinism that were derogatory. And, I only noticed that it must be something wrong when the adults I'd be walking with would get angry or start shouting at people when they were hurling out those names. And I suppose that's what recorded in my head that, oh, okay, there must be something wrong with this name. And I didn't know it was being directed at me until people were pointing in my direction. Then, okay, I knew, this is a bad name, because clearly my aunt is angry about it. My mom's angry about it. And it's being directed at me. So that was that. And then my mom was a nurse, thankfully. So she explained what albinism was to me from a biological sense from day one, from as old as I could remember. Albinism was explained to say you have pink skin, because your skin is, when God made you, he left out a little component that is a dye that makes you brown. And every person who's not brown is lacking or has a little bit of that dye in them that makes their skin brown. And it is that dye that also allows you to go to the sun. That's why you must put on sunscreen, because you don't have this dye. That's basically the language that my mom introduced albinism to when she was explaining to me. I don't know how old I was, probably 3, 4, somewhere there.
I love the term dye. I love the fact that she uses dye as a way of stating. Maybe obviously, like for a 3-year-old, you wouldn't know what melanin or pigmentation is. So I'm glad that she used in a simplest form to explain to you about your condition. Excuse me. So I'm gonna ask you about your educational side of things, like in school. I always ask my guests of PWA community, I always ask them these questions like, did they receive accommodation? So did you receive any accommodations in school in terms of like for your learning, for example, extra times in your exams, um, large prints, in front of the board in your primary and secondary years?
Yeah. Well, because my mom was a nurse, and most people, I suppose, in the healthcare, I don't know what to call it, fraternity and industry, whatever, they tend to have a little bit of OCD in them. From experience, I've seen they tend to be a bit OCD about everything. So she panicked that I wouldn't be able to cope in the mainstream education environment. So she immediately sought for a school specifically for partially sighted or blind children. And there was one that was a boarding school called Prince Hof in a town, a city called Pretoria, here in South Africa. So that's where she took me when I was about 5 years old, after I finished grade 0 or grade R, and you're supposed to now start grade 1. So she took me there. I hated it. I hated being far from home. So after about 2 weeks, I ran away from home. I normally would come home every weekend. So on Monday morning, when I'm supposed to now go back to school, I ran away to my friend's house, and she looked for me. When she found me, I think my friend's mom must have called her. She realized that I hate the environment, and I hated it because it was far, not because there was something wrong with the school or anything. I just didn't like being far from my mom. And I didn't need a board or anything when I was in primary school, so I didn't see the need. So then she opted to go the route of taking me to mainstream schools, but having to explain to the teachers that I do have an eyesight problem. I may need to sit in the front or next to the teacher and so forth. So with that came the normal ridicule that comes with being a nerd, not necessarily associated with albinism. It was just all kids that sit by the teacher are teacher's pets. All the kids that sit in the front and answer all the questions. I mean, if you sit in the front, you generally get asked most of the questions, and you answer them. The teacher just takes a keen interest in you, and I just so happen to like school. So I sort of gravitated maybe towards being a nerd. And I don't know if that's a result of the albinism and therefore being close to the teacher, or whether I was just born to be a nerd and like I don't know. But I became a nerd from primary school into high school. Primary school, I never got any special treatment in terms of exam writing. I didn't need larger prints. I had glasses, and I sat in the front, and I always preferred that the teacher would say whatever she's writing, so that I can write as she writes. I never actually, even though I was close to the board, I never saw anything that she wrote on the board, particularly if they were writing in a yellow chalk or a green chalk. The board itself was green. Our board in class were green. So I never really liked those. When I was at the school for the partially sighted, they used to use projectors, and but you never looked at the projector. Your desk had a computer screen, and you shared that screen with another person next to you. And whatever the teacher was writing on her projector, you could see it on your screen. But in the mainstream schools, they used a normal board, which I couldn't see even though I sat in the front. So I asked the teacher to please say whatever she's writing. So I would write it as she writes. And as a result, I became more of an audio person rather than reading. And I would pass exams purely because I remembered what the teachers were saying in school. And not because I opened a thick book and spent hours and hours and hours studying the book. I just wrote exams purely based on memory. You would associate a certain topic to what a teacher was wearing on the day. This was discussed and certain questions were asked and so forth. And I would now and then refer to the notes I wrote. But most of the time I just remembered based on what was said in class. And this carried on into high school, which I guess is why I gravitated more towards numbers. There's less cramming that you need to do with a number. You understand the theory, you understand the formula, you understand when it applies, and you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice the sums. You get easier ones, you get more difficult ones until you are comfortable with that formula. Then you move on to the next topic, etc., etc. So I ended up gravitating towards those kind of numbery type of subjects, except science, which I hated. I hated science, and everybody thought nerds like maths and science, and you're supposed to be an engineer or something. I hated science. I did accounting and business management, economics, that kind of thing. So yeah, and it was mostly an audio thing. When I got to grade 11, I suspect another child in our school that had albinism joined, but she was much younger than me. And I'm suspecting, they didn't tell me, but suddenly the teacher's treatment toward me changed when she joined us. They suddenly asked if I wanted extra time in exams, which I was never offered. And they wanted to print my exam papers, in A3 instead of A4, which made me the subject of great ridicule amongst my mates. So I went to the teachers and I said, I'm okay. I can see A4. I don't need a bigger print. It's more hassle, to page through, and I waste more time just trying to get my way around this paper than writing the exam and looking at the questions. So I asked them to return back to the way we were normally doing it. And I didn't need any extra time. I don't need special treatment. I'm fine. And that's how it was. Yeah, going into varsity, that was the same thing.
Let me explain to those who are in the room about the A3 paper. I don't know, some of you may not know what A3 is. It's like it's 2 A4 paper put together times 2, right? And I know what you're saying because I had the same thing happen to me. And the thing is, I don't mind having the large print, but I didn't want to carry that big paper in school, and I said to the teachers, look, man,
exactly.
All right, I don't mind. You can make the font a bit bigger, but I don't want it on the A3. It's too big, and it's taking up. First of all, it's taking up too much room in my bag, and second of all, it's making it heavy. So for those who know, I mean, I know you're saying, I definitely can say that because I had that. They gave me extra time in school as well, but at one point I just didn't want. I felt when they were giving me exams when I was doing my GCSEs, I felt like I was isolated from everybody else, and that's how it made me feel. And I said, I don't want to sit. I don't want to be
Yeah.
in a. I don't want to be in a room with, you know. I know there was other special needs kids there, but I just wanted to sit with everybody in the exam room. You know what I mean? But yeah, I can actually relate
Yeah.
to that. I
Exactly.
definitely can. And with the green board, oh my good God. All right, let me just say this, right? The green board or blackboard or green board. Geez, it is the struggle
Same.
is real. The struggle is real, sis.
Yeah.
I'm telling you because it's like, especially if the chalk is blurry on the board. So if you so you
Or
know
they
they got
didn't
little
clean
rubber
that
things.
board thoroughly. Exactly. And there's
So they
that
use
residue,
they use
that
that
white residue.
yes, they use that thing to clean the what's it called again? That kind of board rubber thing they use, and then it's
Mm.
like they rub the board, but then it's like it doesn't clean the board per se. You can still see the chalk residue on the board.
Yep.
It's still
Yep.
there. So even if there was to write notes, you can't. It's not clear enough. But I also had when I was in school as well in the UK, they had whiteboards, but they also had color pens. And the thing that I struggled with, and I had
I
to record
hated those pens.
the red and the green
If you
pens,
eat,
right?
like, just use black and
That would
make
be
sure it's not finished. It's like brand
yes.
new.
Oh my God. Wow, I'm telling you, that's what I went through like in school. I had to beg the teachers, do not write in pink or green. Those are them pens I don't like because I can't. It's like I know you're writing your notes, but I prefer the black pen or the maybe blue, the dark blue, royal blue
Yes.
pen. I can see those colors with
Yes.
writing. But the red
Yes.
and the green, I don't know why these teachers want to put green and pink. They do it purposely sometimes. That's what I think.
I don't get it either. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could see
So
that it's almost like you are annoying them, and they have this whole lesson plan that they've prepared, and they want to execute it exactly according to the lesson plan. And you do, especially with the graphs, because now you have different graphs that they want to draw, and each graph must be a different color, and you tell them, listen, I can only see the first two graphs. After that, I can't see.
yes. Oh my God, for real. For real. I'm telling you, that happened to me in school. And I was just like, do you know what? Yeah, I can't deal with this today. I can't deal with this today. I'm like, God, I can't deal with this today because you're just really gonna annoy me today. I mean, I know you did, but obviously, you know that I'm visually impaired, and you're just doing this on purpose. So I can relate to the blackboard, the whiteboard with the green and pink or even reddish pens and all of that. I can relate to that, how difficult it is um, to really see. And sometimes even if you're sitting in the front and it's in the color, it's still bad because it's like, because of the back of our eyes, the detail is not grammatically correct. So that's one of the things that, oh my God, that
Yep.
I struggle. The struggle is real. So,
And they
uh,
wouldn't understand how you can't see because you're sitting in the front. When you
because
tell them, I can't see, and they say, but you're sitting right there.
no, but the thing is, even if sitting in the front and your vision is still low because of the lack, because I was told when I done the opticians, they said to me, because of the back of your eyes is the part where it makes you see detail. So that's the reason why with us, with
Mm-hmm.
our person, um, the detail is not of seeing things is not developed because of the lack of pigmentation or a little bit of pigmentation in the back of my eyes. I was told by the opticians when I go to have my eye test. So that's why the reasons why I was like, oh, it makes sense that why I have to sit in the front and I'm still struggling because of that. So um let's move on to the next question. You mentioned that you are a CEO of a company. Let's go to employment wise. So, um, when did you become the founder of your company that you started, and what year was it established?
Actually, I didn't found the company. I just got promoted into that position. So Agility is run and founded by a bunch of shareholders.
They saw your hard work, so they decided to promote my sister. But I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on that, on your promotion, and I pray that you go to higher heights in your journey of work. You know, they say hard work pays off, and obviously it's rewarding to know that you got promoted for something as this. So, so one of the things with employment and in the PWA community, and I've done these talks recently to learn more about albinism from different people. And the one thing I've come to understand is just because you have albinism, or if I have albinism, it doesn't mean that my journey or your journey is the same. So I want to ask about employment side of things in South Africa. What's it like for PWAs now, for employment side of things?
Sure. To speak, I would be scared to generalize. So I will simply just relay my story. I was fortunate enough that I was able to finish what we call matric, which is 12th grade, and enter varsity. University is basically freedom in our country. If you can make it into university, every resource that you would need to be a success is in the university. So we had a center for disability students where you could get glasses and all other support systems and measures that you needed. As soon as you have that degree, and you are looking for employment, we have employment equity in our country. We have what they call broad-based Black economic empowerment in our country. And that is a policy that is implemented to redress the injustices of the past. And I mean, we went through apartheid, but now what this policy includes is every single group of people that are termed as previously disadvantaged. And under that, they include women, Black people, youth, and people with disabilities. And as you can imagine, each category is scored differently, and the government gives certain incentives to employers to employ people that fall within those categories. And as a young person, straight fresh out of university, I am Black, I am a woman, I am, according to them, disabled, and I'm young. So I meet every single one of those checkboxes. I did not have problems finding a job at all. I would, every job I applied for, I got. When I finished my third year, my final year of my undergraduate degree, I thought going through the interview process was going to be difficult. So since I intended on pursuing an honors degree, I'm going to use this session as practice round, and attend some interviews and get to learn and make my mistakes and so on while I'm practicing, because the intention is to come back next year and study full time anyways. Then I got 4 job offers from my so-called practice round, for internships and graduate programs. And then I decided, well, I'm going to continue with my honors degree. I'm going to continue to live in res. I don't know what you guys call res in the UK, but it's a university accommodation. I'm going to continue to live in res. I'm going to study, and I'm going to work. And I did just that. My classes were in the evenings, so I went to work during the day, and I went through my 2-year graduate program. And then after that, I changed universities to do my master's. My employer paid all my fees for me to do my master's. And I finished my master's, graduated with distinction. And then after that, they did some org restructuring in my company that I didn't like. I had fallen in love with what I was doing and I wanted to specialize in what I was doing. But the restructuring of the company was going to make me a generalist. And I wanted to be a specialist in project finance. So I left the company and I joined another company, a boutique investment bank. And there I was there about 5 months. Then the company shut down. And then after that, I faced turmoil with employment, absolute turmoil. It's like I went from getting every job I wanted to getting rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection. I applied for like 20 jobs. And I eventually got I was attending a church called Joy International, and the pastor there was also CEO of a private equity fund. So he brought me on as a contractor there, and at least I could earn a little bit of an income, And by then I'm a married woman. First year of marriage, we're supposed to be in bliss, but you're undergoing all this financial turmoil, and by God's grace, I suppose, once I got that contractor role, it opened doors for another position in another private equity company, and they were looking for a senior associate there. So I joined them as the senior associate, and worked, and then got fired from that job. I say fired because after 6 months of probation, they said they're not keeping me. So they didn't outright say you fired, but they fired me. And there could be various reasons why, but I'm pretty sure I know why they fired, and it predominantly because I was trying to fight for certain rights in our employment contracts that they were trying to implement, like maternity benefits, which were not being given, the ability to study and upgrade ourselves, etc., and flexi hours, because we plan to be mothers and you can't just have rigid working hours, etc. So I was being a pain, I suppose, to them, and they let me go. And then after that, I started my own company, providing advisory services for projects that require financing, and helping them to raise capital as well, preparing financial models and business plans and all those things that are needed for a company to be able to go and approach a bank or a development finance institution, etc., for a project. And then whilst I was doing that, I then joined another company called Cresco that also does project finance specifically. And I joined them because I loved project finance, but they were doing a lot of government deals, which I wasn't getting much exposure in. So I joined them, but that stint didn't last very long. Then I went back into unemployment. I didn't want to restart my company and get clients again because I wanted to go back into the employment space full time. And after some struggles, I then got called by Agility, which had nothing to do with what I was doing. I literally changed. I was doing project finance, investment banking, corporate finance basically, and investments, all my careers of over 10 years. And they called me to say, come and be a COO of this EV company that manufactures electric bikes.
Wow.
There was a total different industry, and I was panicking, thinking, what the hell do I know about manufacturing?
Wow.
And operations.
Your CV or resume is really big. Yes, I love this. I love this type of stories. I love it because,
oh God, I was so nervous.
Girl, it's all right. That's God right there, because the door opened and you never least expected, honestly. That's a door open for you. And sometimes the very thing that you're not expecting to get, it will just fall right on your lap. Trust me. I know. And
exactly.
The thing is, you worked for different people. And sometimes I see as, when you get terminated from certain companies, right? I remember when I had my first job and everything, and he didn't feel like they never believed in me, but I was upset and everything, you know, Trust me, I wasn't. Anybody who gets let go of a job is devastating. But I look at it as, look here, maybe that one door closes, another one opens. So I just take it as, you know what, I'm glad I had the experience, but I know I'm gonna keep climbing for next opportunities, and that's something that I have learned about
Yeah.
myself. You understand me? So I'm very happy to hear these type of stories, and congratulations on your achievement of being a CEO for a motorbike company. I'm so glad for you. I'm proud of you, Queen. Trust me. And I know nothing comes easy, but something hard work does pay off. Hard work does pay off.
Yep, that's
So
true. That's
one
true.
of the things I want to ask you is, what is your message for a PWA who is looking for employment? What is your message to them?
When you are on the hunt, don't be afraid to bring it up in your interviews. They need to know where your challenges lie. They need to know where your shortcomings are, and they need to know that you are aware of those shortcomings and how you intend on um, overcoming them in doing your job. So they mustn't feel that bringing you on board is going to reduce productivity in any way,
Mhm.
or allow or make them have to adjust a specific job just for you. So you need to effectively prove to them how you are going to create an environment along with their assistance that is conducive enough to ensure that productivity is not in any way negatively impacted by them
Mhm.
employing you over somebody else.
Mhm.
So I'll give you an example. I have to work with a laptop all the time, and um, I would say, listen, I will need to do presentations with the board. I would need to attend certain online meetings, etc. So I need my laptop, the font adjusted first of all. Some of the items that I may need, or programs that I work with, don't adjust by default when you adjust the font of your laptop. And the same goes for the phone, the work phone, etc. WhatsApp is great because at least the font does increase when you change the font on under settings. So I would just say to them, if you can just get me whoever's in your IT department to assist there, I would have no other issues with doing my job on a day-to-day. And two, if I have to, for example, do presentations, other people would read the PowerPoint presentation as they make the presentation. But I know I can't see what I'm presenting. The people can see what I'm presenting. So I now need to memorize my speech, memorize my presentation beforehand, and present it without reading because there's nothing I can see anyways. But I would have known that on that slide, I'm discussing this. This is what's on there. These are the diagrams I need them to focus on, etc. So when I present it, everybody ends up saying, you're so well spoken. Oh, you're so eloquent. There was an awesome presentation. Because half the people are so used to reading their speeches, and we don't have that opportunity to rely on what's on paper or what's on the screen. We have to cram the stuff like actors and go and present it and like an actor basically. But
That's in the
that's
script.
how I have to prove to them that I'm doing extra work to make sure that I will still be able to do this job the way anybody else would.
Wow. Do you know what really amazes me about you is the fact that even though, because of your vision and so forth, you have find ways to accommodate yourself, improvising. And I think that's something I will take away from this interview and learn. Improvisation is second nature in our community. And there are times where I had to find ways in work too, like to really accommodate myself as well. Like, you know, I work for a well-known company. Obviously, I don't really want to disclose it for security reasons. So, um, and the department I'm in is it's so, it's hard work, but I had to accommodate myself in work to do my job efficiently. But I don't think that some people who have albinism don't know that method of accommodating for themselves. And that's something that I would love to really deposit as well and encourage to find ways of adapting to different skills, adapting to different methods to really help you so you can do your work efficiently.
Exactly.
Moving on to the next question. Now, one of the things of Yell for Change is to bring up the stigma around albinism, and it is also, we're going to talk about the myths. Thank you, Sylvia, for your comment. Welcome. Um, we're going to talk about the myths now. Now, in certain parts of Africa, I am aware of the dangerous risk factor of having albinism. And what is your view on this intake about these myths that our people with albinism have some kind of superpowers? What's your view on this?
You're breaking up, Marilyn.
I guys apologize. Okay, so we got can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, better. Should I switch off my camera?
No, it's fine. Camera is fine.
Okay.
It happens all the time. So I don't know. Internet problems always occur whenever I'm doing these talks. So apologies for that. I don't know why he's doing that. But I'm asking about your opinion about the myths in Africa. What is your view on this myths about the violence against PWA?
Half of them are funny. Half of them are funny, and all of them are based purely on ignorance. Ignorance breeds fear, and fear breeds and it could just be fear, or just the inability to deal with ambiguity, or things you don't quite understand, so you create answers to your own questions. Hello, mama. This is my little baby. She doesn't want to sleep. Don't want to sleep, mama.
Hello.
You don't want to sleep. Say hi. Say hi.
Welcome.
She's about to fall asleep, but we normally read and sleep together.
Right.
So I was saying it's okay. She wants to say hi, Teddy. Go put Teddy to bed. Go put Teddy to bed. Yeah, you don't want to put Teddy to bed. Okay. So like I was saying, she Mommy's talking to Auntie, ne? Auntie. Okay, go ask Daddy to give you some juice, ne? So sorry, Marilyn. Yeah, with the myths, I think if it's mostly stemming from ignorance and people just wanting answers, and so they are too scared to ask for the answers, and so they create their own, so that it makes more sense to them, and most of their answers are purely emanating from fear. You don't know, it's different, and you're scared of it, and so you create the stories in your head about it. And those stories make sense to you, they make you feel better, and then you start spreading them like rumors.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and particularly in Africa, we're very big on spirituality and mythicism and the like. So over and above just the albinism, we're just very big on those kind of things. And so this just adds to a culture that already exists. And this brings a physical, tangible object object or subject, and that's only going to fuel the myths that fly around.
Wow. And the thing is, what what I don't understand is in these myths why they're attacking babies and children, and that's something that really disturbs me. And when I see,
It's easy targets. It's easy targets. Yeah.
yeah, easy targets, but I just think they just, I just think that you're picking on the vulnerable, I would say, that can't fight for themselves. I just think that makes you weak, to be honest. And I always look at these myths as what are you gaining out of that by selling body parts on the black market, killing them for rituals? And another thing I've actually got to learn as well, for those who just joined in the room as well, I also done a talk with a few PWAs a couple weeks back, and the listeners shared with me that um they have to protect the dead bodies of a PWA because of the rituals that if a person with albinism passes away, they don't bury them in. They have a kind of special burial at night or something like that to protect them from being digged up for rituals, which
Yeah.
really,
It's disturbing.
and
Hey.
then they would say things like a person with albinism
Mm.
vanish. Wow, it's
Yeah,
a lot.
because they're buried at night and no one can attest to having attended a funeral.
Hmm.
Mm.
So that's
I
one
was
of the.
saying to my husband that I want
Mm,
to be cremated for that very reason. And I said to my parents the same thing. They must cremate me, and they all just stood up and said no. They don't want to. They don't want to cremate me. The Bible says that in the end times, we're going to be resurrected. Now, how are they going to resurrect you if you are ash?
well, that's what they say: earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? When you go to a funeral service, that's what they say. They say earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. 6 foot under.
And they say to me to my face that you will be dead, so we will do with your body what we see fit.
Wow. I mean, put it this way, like, a lot of people maybe are in fear of going to Africa because of these dangerous myths. So, um, for me personally, if I was to come to Africa, maybe I'll probably have to have some kind of security and whatnot for me, because you know because of these myths. And obviously a part of me, I want part of me when I say I'm gonna go to these places, but then it's like I don't really want to put myself in no danger. I'm a wife as well, so I'm sure my husband will be like, I don't want my missus to come home safe. uh,
Mm.
so those are the things that I have to really take into account as well. But I think I'm learning more and more about these kind of things in the albinism community. And one another thing that I have to bring this up as well, like one other myth that they talked about is PWA can cure AIDS or HIV. And honestly, I
Yes,
is
they just say sleep with someone and you'll get cured and but they also say if you sleep with a virgin you'll get cured. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
and I think that's why the rates are very high because of this. So I mean, for me,
Yeah.
I see it as instead of it's curing, it's actually the person's receiving it, so they have to live a lifetime of carrying a disease, which oh god, it's a lot. And some women maybe can't get pregnant, or a man can't get, just have a producing a child or something like that because of that. And obviously having HIV does carry a stigma as well. It does carry a big stigma. So can you imagine having albinism and
Mm.
then they come with these beliefs that a person with albinism cures AIDS? Like, I just think it's the most ignorant thing, and sometimes I laugh at these things, not because of somebody, not because of the fact that someone is ill. That's something I wouldn't do, but I laugh at the ignorance of these type of mindset. I think is very ignorant. Ignorance is no
Mm.
bliss. So that's one of the things that I have learned about these myths. I don't know the myths that I'll tell you this now because as a Caribbean person, they even said that where your mum must have been on her period when she had sex, and that's when you come out that way. And I was like, what? What kind of a thing is that to say?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a
Yeah,
new one. That's the first for me.
yes, in the Caribbean, that's what they come up with. That a woman had when she was on her menstrual cycle, she had sex, and that's how you probably come up with albinism
We
or
should
what.
have a lot more PWAs if that's the case. A lot more.
Girl, I'm telling you, this is the reality of this is the reality that we're living in, where people come with these myths. And another myth that I've also heard is like the woman slept with a white man. Another one of the myths that they said a woman
Why
slept.
isn't the baby mixed then? So what happens with the mixed race
Exactly,
babies?
exactly, right. Exactly. These are kind of stupidity of ignorance that I cannot entertain. Um, and it's one of you know what? I'm kind of glad that we can laugh at this because it's better to laugh than to be angry. It's better to really, really laugh and just smile because you know what? There's no point getting yourself worked up over things like this. You know the truth. You know who your mom and your dad. You know, and one of the things I've learned in the albinism is that everybody is a carrier of the gene. When a woman is pregnant, you don't know what the couple of baby's gonna come out. You're
Yeah,
growing something inside of you.
yeah,
Oh, the baby's growing 9 months, 39 weeks.
exactly.
So when you give birth now, that's when you will know if the child has albinism or not. By looking at the hair, the first thing you notice
Or not.
is
Yeah.
this hair. You notice the hair of the person when they are born, or a child, I should say. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Mental health. As a part of Health for Change advocacy, it's also to bring awareness to mental health within the PWA community. So, in your opinion, Bunny, is that spoken about? Have you ever heard anyone mention about mental health?
I've seen it. I've experienced it. I think not with myself per se, but I do have family members that have albinism in my family. And I've seen the psychological, the lack of self confidence that's there, the inability or unwillingness to just partake in life, and you just want to close yourself up in a cocoon that makes you then start to believe that there's certain things you can't do, which then makes you lesser of a human being, and it escalates to the point where you now no longer want to live anymore. People won't even miss you if you did. The world will be a better place without you, etc., etc. So, I've had a cousin that was going through something similar, and throughout that process there was also a lot of anger that was harbored, um, and so I've seen it, and with some friends as well. I've seen it. I've experienced people who really had it rough, and I can, I would think what might have saved me, apart from the fact that I just had a family that was full on supportive, I always say is my mother took me out of the township early into the suburbs, and people in the burbs don't like each other. And I say it with the utmost respect. They do not like each other. They don't, greet each other every day and visit each other and drink tea. They just see each other in the driveway and hello, bye, and that's it. So, and then you go to the mall, and so you don't get the ridicule as intensely as you do in the townships. In the townships, there are no white people, there are no mixed race people. It's just black people, and so you're the only pink person, and and that's where all the myths come, and the spirituality people, with the sangomas and the ritual killings and all of that. It's in the townships, so you get a lot more pain, ridicule, and ostracizing and prejudice generally when you live in the township. So I think the experiences of people, with albinism who lived and grew up in the townships might be different from me. I was born and raised in the rural areas, which is, it's like below townships. And then immediately from there I did a very short stint in the townships and then moved to the burbs. So all my teenage years, where you go through adolescence and you're supposed to hate yourself and I was already no longer facing the name calling and the ridicule. The last time I faced that, I was probably 6 or 7 years old. So I blocked it for the remainder of my journey and my childhood, and it wasn't as bad, but for I would say for those who did grow up experiencing it every single day, it hit home and it had an impact. And very often you'd get them self-loathing, you'll get the depression, the non-willingness to live. No one wants to. I mean, in the township it was so bad. I remember I dated a guy. I dated this guy for 6 years, and his family hated me.
Wow.
And he's tried to hide it for a while. Eventually he told me he had family members that would spit on the floor when
Wait,
they walked,
hold on. Wait a
past.
minute. Repeat that, please. Did you say spit?
Yes, because the belief is, if you see someone with albinism, you will turn. So they believe vitiligo is someone who came across someone who had albinism, and this thing was, I don't know, contagious, I suppose. So now if you don't want this to pass on to you, when now you start losing melanin, you must spit on the floor. and they would spit whenever I'd come around. And I ended up saying, I don't even know how you and I are going to get married. And these are supposed to be my in-laws when they spit on the floor whenever they come across me. You know what I mean? And but yeah, we obviously didn't get married, but that wasn't the reason why we broke up. But thankfully, they are not my in-laws.
Thank God you got out of that, sis. They'll probably kill you. I wouldn't be talking to you today. Sometimes I look at that,
Yeah, you
what become your ridicule is your biggest blessing. And, thank God that I have my in-laws that love and accepts me as well. And to know that people spit, and spitting is more or less assault on somebody. Is worse than, I would say, it's more or less you hit somebody then, because you're basically passing bacteria.
Yeah.
Oh, that is disgusting. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so sorry that you actually went through that, but I'm glad that he is his loss and it's their loss, because they could have looked beyond the color of your skin and didn't see Bonnie. They just look at your albinism as something that is, um, you know, that's different. And sometimes I don't know, where have we become so ignorant and not embracing uniqueness and differentness? And I just think that ignorance is for fools. And at the end of the day, with vitiligo, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because vitiligo is autoimmune. You can't catch it. And so is albinism. Albinism is not contagious. It's not like a cold or a flu where you can say, I'm too. And you'll catch the cold or, it's congenital. Yes.
Oh, you touch me and
you touch me. Oh, my skin's gonna go white. Yes. And then on top of that, you're like, okay, I'm not gonna lie. There were times where I felt that I was diseased and whatnot. I'm not gonna lie. And there were times where and there's some people, like, not all my family members, but some of them, they kind of ridiculed me. But I had some good people from my countries that they embraced me and loved me beyond albinism and so forth. And I've got some amazing people up till now that's supporting me with my journey with Yell for Change and my project, and also with albinism, and to know I've never experienced the spitting, but I experienced the walking on the side of the road thing. No one don't want to walk next to me, or some family members when they have wedding functions, they don't want to sit next to me, kind of thing. I've experienced that firsthand, but
Oh,
I I didn't understand why they did it. But if I was to confront them now about it, they're probably like, "Oh, it's quite, it's no." What you ridiculed me, and when you ridicule somebody, it it really hits the self-esteem, sis. It hits the self-esteem because of the rejection, being dehumanized, being ostracized, being
mm,
prejudiced, stereotypes, and being stigmatized. And and it does affect you socially to form relationships having albinism, because I know there's a lot of PWAs right now are struggling to really to bond with someone because of the stigma that comes
to
around it.
trust, yeah.
And obviously, it does
Yep.
take a toll on the mental health aspects of things. So, one of the things with Yell for Change is about exposing the mental health aspects of having albinism due to the stigma and due to the actual dehumanizing of PWAs. And I want to really encourage PWAs to really come out and speak out more about your don't suffer in silence. And that's the message that I want to really deposit in the PWA community all over. Doesn't matter. I mean, and I understand that it's very hard to trust people and it's not easy to trust somebody sometimes, but there are people in the professional world who can help you and support you regarding your mental health. Reach out to somebody who can help you. And that's
True.
something that I want to really deposit. Um, I am
Very
going to move
true.
on now to this very thing. Right. Now it's the time to bring up the situation with the sunscreen. Not the sunscreen, you posted a post, an article on Facebook about
The sun
you went
girl.
to some kind of government office. Please tell your story on this. Explain in your words what really happened that day.
So I had my wallet stolen some about 2 months ago,
Mhm.
and my ID card was on there, my driver's license was in there, everything. So I now had to go through a process of replacing all my cards.
Mhm.
And the driver's license needs you to have your ID card when you apply for a replacement of your driver's license. So the first step was to go get my ID card, which we get at a government office called Home Affairs.
Mhm.
And they have, so um, I went there just before 9 a.m. They open at 8. So
Mhm.
I went there in the morning. I'm thinking, okay, as long as I can be inside by say 9:30, um, I I I should be okay. And it was cold at first, so I thought, okay, it's cloudy. It's the perfect time to go there. I wore my sunscreen as usual, took my black umbrella as usual, and went. When we got there, they didn't even open the gate for us. We were standing in a queue outside the gate in the sun. Then at around 10 o'clock, they eventually opened the gate for us to enter, but not the building. So we're standing next to the building on the wall, against the wall of this building from around 10 until about 3:30. So 10 a.m. till 3:30 p.m.
So that's like
I'm,
five
I'm,
and a
I'm,
half
I'm out
hours.
there in the sun.
Wow.
So yes. So you could be reapplying sunscreen all day, and but if you are literally in the scorching heat, and it was no longer partly cloudy or cloudy, it just got hot. I think it got to 32 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's
But it was
about
about 32 degrees Celsius.
mm, that's about. I'm not sure, probably about 60 to 70 Fahrenheit. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. Yeah, carry on.
Somewhere there, but it was scorching hot, pure summer weather, and so and there's no shade that you can go and sit at and ask someone to hold your place. Even if they were to hold your place, there's nowhere for you to sit and have enough shade. There were mothers who, this was the most painful for me. I mean, yes, I can feel for me and my sunburn. There were mothers with newborn babies who just came out of the hospital. They probably have a 3-week-old baby, a 2-week-old baby, and they've come to that office to register their children and get birth certificates for their children. I couldn't understand that thought process. I thought this is something that must be done in the hospitals. You're not supposed to leave the hospital with your baby without a birth certificate for your baby. Why you need to give birth in a hospital and still come back to a government office with a newborn baby, you're healing from C-sections and the like, and you must stand there the whole day with a newborn baby. There's no place to sit and breastfeed. It's barbaric. It's ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. And the government officials just keep coming in. They just keep coming out and telling us the system is offline. They're having problem connecting to the system. The lines are long, ridiculous excuses. It's school holidays, so there's too many people that are coming, and young children, matriculants that are writing 12th grade, and so they are now upgrading from the birth certificate to their ID card, and that's why the line is this long. Oh, the elderly, I couldn't believe it. The elderly had to bring camping chairs so they can sit there the whole day. So you literally just block off your whole day. You bring camp chairs, you bring umbrellas, you bring food. You are there all day. And our skin can't take that kind of heat, even if you wear sunscreen, which I did. I had to leave, go back to my car, reapply sunscreen. I actually drove back home. I had to splash my face with water and reapply sunscreen and drink more water. I was starting to feel a bit dehydrated, and I went back. But it was just too hot. My skin couldn't take it. It couldn't take it. And I wish we could have an online system or a way for them to say you just get a card number or something, and you can go sit wherever, and the system will call you. Yes, then we didn't need to get that sunburned. But hey,
I saw your pic
that
of your
that was my experience.
When I saw your pic, I was like,
my neck, it's still covered now, and I have been applying aloe vera gel for days.
Yes, that's good.
And I'm in my 30s now, so my skin is not as elastic as it used to. So I am crying because I'm starting to see fine lines.
May I ask, how old are you?
I am 33 in 2 weeks' time. I'll be 33.
What? So you just got like, I'm 32, so I'm in my 30s too. I turned 32 this year. Wow. Welcome to the 30 Club.
Yeah, so you start looking at stuff, starting to notice all these wrinkles and fine lines around your eyes, and it's making me panic. But
I just think that they should do better, honestly, because when you say elderly and babies, no man, that's too much. That's too much.
It's inhumane.
Yeah, very much so. Now the floor is open now to anyone who would like to ask Boni any questions. So to the audience who are listening, welcome to Albinism Talk. Thank you so much for taking time out with me and guest Boni K. Roberts. So the floor is open to anyone who wants to speak out.
Hello.
Hi.
It's Sylvia here. You know me, Marilyn.
Hi, Sylvia. How are you?
Yes. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. I'd like to. Is it Bonsley? Is that how you pronounce it? Bonsley Roberts.
Just say Boni.
Boni Sile, but everyone just calls me Boni.
Oh, Boni, okay.
Everyone just calls me Boni.
Yes, I noticed that you were saying how people, you know, like in the townships and, you know, that went through, well, a very challenging times, to put it politely. But there are some horrendous stories where I think a young lad was actually murdered, you know, it was a few years back, and they have put legislations to try and rectify this. What I'd like to know, what type of albinism or PWA organisations like NPOs or NGOs are there in South Africa? You know what?
The biggest one is we do have one that is associated with, it's actually a government, it is an NPO, but it's pretty much run by the government and the Department of Social Welfare, if I'm not mistaken. It's called the Albinism Association of South Africa, and they are the ones that are pretty much present in every university. They have offices in every province, and every PWA who has financial constraints and needs the resources we normally use, like sunscreen and glasses and things of that nature. They get assistance when they walk into any one of those offices.
Thank you.
But that's the biggest one. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Can I ask another quick question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Floor's open.
Okay, great. The other thing, you were saying the, you know, the discrimination. Now, I don't know if you looked in my chat. I did mention a couple of things they said, what's been known. If you looked, I didn't need, you know, when you mentioned the spitting, I did mention that early, and all the other ridiculous myths, you know, as you say, they, in a way, they're laughable, but it has consequences, you know, it has a serious side, because for many PWAs in sub-Saharan Africa, it's a nightmare, because it, you know, they very much pride themselves with black skin, but for no fault of anyone there, those who were born in albinism, as you say, you mentioned very clearly the depression, the isolation, the discrimination. I don't want to sit with you on transport. And that's why I really put, it is hell on earth for some of them, hell on earth. Yes, you're fortunate to have a very loving, supporting family, but we really need to be, you know, try and advocate, you know, for, like, that's why I mentioned about the NPOs or NGOs in South Africa, because, you know, in other parts of Africa, I don't know if you heard of the GAA, the Global Albinism Alliance. It's a global.
I did, yes.
You have.
Yeah, I have.
Because what they're trying to do is trying to get all the organizations, you know, sort of so they can network, but also, like you mentioned, the South Africa one, nationwide, to all the different regions in that particular country. You know, because sub-Saharan Africa, I'm afraid, is the worst we know.
I'm not sure if they do have a relationship with the Albinism Association of South Africa yet.
I think they are registered with the GAA, the Global Albinism Alliance, you know, but I think as regional, really, it's to concentrate, you know, like lobbying the government, you know, to get free sunscreens and for PWAs, and especially the health workers, the reaction, you know, there's been testimony from Amnesty International, or how they've had testimonies from the mothers who have given birth to children with albinism, and how the health workers have treated them as well. Everything starts as soon as the PWA is born. They're on the, you know, the husbands walk away and they accuse them of having an affair with a white man, or, you know, it wasn't their child, not in their family. And it is a whole domino effect, simply because, you know, and they, you know, we really have to stick together, all of us, whether you're in South Africa, in other parts of the world, but especially in sub-Saharan Africa. I take it personally because my mother is from Sierra Leone, and I won't go into details, but I didn't have a happy childhood. Yes, I was born in the UK, but you know, it was tough. Let's say it was challenging. It was challenging. And when I heard about the killings and that, I was very, very upset, because I thought that could have been me. It could have been me if you're in those countries, because there is this myth, you know, you end up in pieces. You know, they killed, and the majority of them, as you quite rightly stated,
literal
I think it was
pieces.
children. It's barbaric. There's, you know, not sort of pretend to pussyfoot. I go to as far as being savage, because you're killing children.
It is.
It's monstrous.
It's
It's
horrendous.
brutal. It is brutal.
So, do you
We have a
remember, I
case
don't
right
know.
here in South Africa.
Say that again, Bonnie. Is it in South Africa?
We have a case in South Africa. The guys are going through, the trial is now, and it's a public trial that they're going through now, where two witch doctors who live in South Africa but are originally from Swaziland, abducted and killed a 13-year-old girl, and one of them was proudly relaying this in court, how he chopped her up and had various parts. They were fighting over the head of the girl, and the other one got to take the genitals and put them in a mayonnaise jar and display them in his, for a lack of a better term, pharmacy, or what we call them indumba in South Africa, but it's basically where they keep all their medicine and all that stuff. And he displayed it there proudly, and apparently this jar of mayonnaise with these genitals would cure all manner of illnesses. And if your business is going down and, you know, customers are no longer walking into your shop, you come and they smear this fat that's coming from the breast of this woman that was mutilated, this young girl that was mutilated. And it's you know, it's disturbing, it's traumatizing, and every day we have to listen to these testimonies.
Because recently there's been a spice of killings in Zambia recently, and in Tanzania. In fact, there's been 2 killings last month. We were in October now. Last month was a 3-year-old little girl. It's quite a well-known where she had around.
The 3-year-old one, the 2-year-old one was in May.
Yeah.
Let me just interject on this one. The one you're talking about
was
recent.
Yeah.
Has another one happened again?
Yes, there's been another one. In fact, I think 2 states.
There's another one, Merton.
Yes,
there was a boy. September.
Yeah, in September. If you look on the
I know about the boy, the 12-year-old boy. Yeah. I didn't know there was another 3-year-old again. Oh my God.
No, a toddler.
No, yeah. Yeah, it's a baby, wasn't it? Just recently.
There's a girl. It was a baby that was snatched from the mother.
That's right.
And it was the father. The father
it
was
usually
involved.
is.
Yeah.
It usually is somebody. It has to be family related who knows where they live. They dig up the graves.
Yes.
They dig up the graves. This is why they have to be set in concrete. There's a pure, unrefined hatred, and I repeat, hatred of PWAs in sub-Saharan Africa. We cannot beat around the bush about this. Yes, I sound very passionate, but I'll try and, you know, I'd write letters to, you know, I knew IE, Maluka Doman, you know, it was IK, and I write letters, you know, Malawi is the most notorious. Tanzania,
yes. Oh my God, yes.
Botswana, you know, these are the more, and I think recently in Ghana, which I was shocked, because as I say, recently there's a little girl who got snatched, and they found her body, well, what was left of it, with the head missing near the mosque, you know, in Ghana, and this is Ghana. And I was shocked, because Ghana is one of the most stable in that. But it's this ritual, like you said, Boni, it's very ritual. Black people do not like PWAs. They don't. End off. They don't.
It's
Period.
kind of fun you said that, because now Bonnie, I have to say, is in the UK. They're talking about Black History Month in the UK, which to me personally, I have a mixed emotions about it. It's good to celebrate Black Pride, Black achievements and stuff like that. But you're gonna let's not beat round the bush around here, because there's a lot of black on black crime for one. Okay. And number two, what's going on in the albinism community is that we face double racism,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
right.
from our
That's right.
own.
Yeah. You see, it's the hypocrisy of it all. It's all this Black Lives Matter,
Yeah,
about the slavery, about how, which, yes, it's historical, it's true. Yet those same people, the Black people, turn around and vent all that hatred, that ridicule, the mocking, the what I call
Another
dehumanizing,
fellow black.
othering. You see where I'm coming from?
mhm,
They point a finger at outsiders who did this, and this to them, and yet they're doing the same to us, but worse
mhm,
to
mhm.
us.
It's not even, it's, you can't even compare.
No,
The other one is pure devilish.
it is.
It's
Yeah,
not.
you're right.
I can't even. I think we're downplaying it when we call it hatred. This goes beyond that.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't mutilate people because you hate them, and brag about the fact that you are using their private parts to make your business profitable. That is
God,
no, man. That is
It's
evil.
it's sick. It's sick. It's twisted. And you
Yeah.
hear the horror stories. I mean, some of them you just can't believe what you're hearing. And it's Black people doing this to, they're Africans doing to fellow Africans. Some of it is so horrible. I don't need to go into detail, like you said.
oh, it's
Like
fine.
you.
No, it's fine. The truth needs to be said. It's fine.
All right, fair enough. There's one case. I think it was a young boy. I think it was, yes, it was Malari, and they found the remains, and they found at the back, his innards had been, you know, I don't want to go into it, but you know what I mean. He was mutilated. He was what's the word? He was mutilated, and they found at the back of his head a hole. And what they had done, they had drained the blood out, like a vampire, as you say, to use as ritual. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go any further because it's just so disgusting. But this is what they do. Amnesty International,
Sure.
brilliant. You've probably heard of them. And now that PWAs around Africa are giving testimonies, and some of the cases that are coming out, do read their report, recent report. And there's an also amazing charity called Under the Same Sun by
Mhm,
Peter Ash. He's a very big charity, and they because now they're gathering information, because the PWAs in Africa are starting to tell just what's going on. There was a case, I can give you a health worker. There was a woman, what was that? Oh, there was a health worker who she had, is it when you have a baby, antenatal, you have your baby and she went to a government hospital, and she had to go for a checkup. This was a government hospital, mind you. Yeah. And she went in there, and the doctor told her to undress, to check her up because she was having a baby. I think it's what they call antenatal, isn't it? Because I'm not a mother, so I'm not familiar. Anyway,
mhm.
he went out and brought all the nurses in and
Yeah.
staff and stood there and mocked her, and they're saying, what husband would want to go with you or got you into the condition you were? Not laughing at her. So she left the hospital and had her baby at home. Now, it was her first child. Luckily, it sounded like she was all right, but to feel that she had to go to have her baby at home because of the mocking, the scoffing, and that's what it's like. If that was in the NHS in Britain, they would have been disciplined. They would have been dragged over the coals. They really would have
Yeah.
done. But out there, anything goes. And about the spitting, you say they spit on the floor, but actually they spit at them as well. I think it's sort of to like a good luck, well, not good luck, or, you know, I don't want to catch it, like you said, catch albinism. What have we done to deserve that? I mean, I can go on and on and on. That's why I'm, you know, with Black Africa, like I said I wouldn't want to go there. I'll probably end up as a pair of shoes and a matching handbag. Not so much Jimmy Choos, I'll end up as Chewy Jims.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
I'm sorry, I had to sort of lighten it, but
this is very informative for me because I didn't know about.
Oh yes.
It's very. Thank you for sharing that with us,
Yeah.
man. That to me, boy, this is what I'm saying. These talks are so
unspeakable.
You get to learn more about these. The more I'm learning about albinism, the more I'm learning about the distresses of it, and it's so overwhelming to know that I want to tell you the truth, right? I love mayonnaise. I love mayonnaise. Okay, I eat mayonnaise with my foods, and to know that they use a PWA's body part to put in there for remedies. Oh God, sad. It's really sad. On this whole, guys, do you really think the death penalty will be appropriate for this person, though? Be honest.
I would really, you know, if they were in Botswana, for example, and this had happened in Botswana and they found them, the community would want them out of prison because the community would effectively want to deal with them directly, and they would burn them at the stake, literally.
I think prison will be too good for them.
So in South Africa, in South Africa, if they get out, they are going to torch them. They are going to set them alight. They normally put tires, you know, car tires around them, and they throw petrol at them and
horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. But I know in Malawi and in Tanzania, because it got to the presidents, you know, not the current president, it was Peter, the previous president of Malawi, and he was being interviewed about, you know, all the killings, and he was saying, like we were saying, how stupid and that. And I know you can actually watch it on YouTube, you know, of Malawi, and he said, I never forget what he said, the churches at the time didn't speak up. This is where I'm angry. The churches never spoke up. You know, they should have been there and very loudly has stopped this. But he said that I feel bad. I feel really bad. I feel ashamed because it's tarnished his country. Because, you know, when it got out, the main killings were in 2009. And that's when it sort of peaked, and there was many other killings. All the it got out into the West, you know, TV crews were flying over interviewing PWOs, and they're embarrassed. And the same thing happened in Tanzania. It got to the president, and he kicked a lot of the witch doctors out and put a lot of the PWA children into sort of protector centers. They're still there now.
I remember.
Yeah, you know, they panicked. In a way, they panicked because their dirty little secret, and I call it Africa's dirty little secret, was out. The world got to know about it, and they're embarrassed.
I'm glad it's exposed now, because you see, it's kind of funny that you see what I've learned is what's done in the dark is gonna come out in the light, and these discussions I will have. This is why I'm trying to engage with more PWAs to hear these talk about the myths, how you feel about it, because when I saw the myths about that little baby girl in main Zambia, and I have to bring this up, that made me cry. Boni, I bawl my eyes out. I bawl. I'm not gonna lie, because you know when you see things,
it was really, really
hurts. Do you know what it feels like? I have albinism, and it feels like it's happening to me, even though it's. I'm putting myself in the shoes of a PWA that's a victim of these horrendous attacks. You understand me? I'm not exposed to it per se, but I'm putting myself in the shoes of a person who's experienced that. It's like it's happening to me. Yeah. it's happening. It feels like it's happening to
Yeah, no,
me.
I think we all bawled with the little baby. We all just broke down.
Yes. And the poor mama, can you imagine? And the worst part about it is the fact that they pretended to
Oh,
be police officers, right? And not only that,
yeah.
they did it in front of the child's brother. So not only that the little girl got her arm dismembered, they did it in front of the mother, and they threatened to kill the mother. They threatened the family. So they took the arm of the baby. So now you're gonna make the baby grow up with such hate now. Yeah?
Mm.
Such hate. It's already hard born with the albinism, but to make someone to disable someone without an arm or a leg or a body part, it's like life is not gonna be the same. And as I said about the mental health
Mm.
aspect of it, they say the aftermath is more impacted than the actual event. So the aftermath of having that event happen to you, of course you're gonna be traumatized. Um of course you're gonna be at a place where I can imagine the suicide rate is high right
Yeah,
now with
you're
people that don't want
absolute.
to.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's very high because they feel a sense of no hope. And like you said about the trauma, because it's witnessed by not just the mother fighting for her child like any mother would. It's like a tug of war. She would not let go of her child. She will hold on for tooth and claw. But it's witnessed by her other siblings, and the other siblings see this. They see the horror, and some of them are so traumatized. Some of them can't speak for weeks. They just can't speak. And like you said, it has other repercussions years later. So it
Yeah.
affects many people. It's the absolute cruelty. I mean, I'm going to say these people who do it, and I'll tell you this, it's not just the perpetrators, but it's done to order. These customers, they're actual customers, and they think it seems to
Exactly.
spike.
There is an entire syndicate that
Oh
has been
yes,
formed because there is a
yeah,
demand.
yeah. And a lot of them are business people, politicians. They can't prove it, but they seem to spike during an election time. That's when it's most dangerous. It seems to spike, because these
Yeah.
businessmen say, "Oh,
Yes.
I need they say albino." I don't like the word; it's derogatory, but that's
Me
what they would
too.
say. I
Me
don't like it.
too.
PWA, parts. And we just become commodities, no longer human. We become commodities, like these poor children. Because a child, it's easy to grab. They're not as strong as an adult, like a man or anything. But, they can grab a child. And the innocence, as you said, the innocent blood. They're savages. They are savages. That's what they are, savages. I don't care how many degrees they have, whether they're of the cloth, of the bar, how many lands, ruler of the seas. They are savages in suits. That's what they are.
Agreed. They don't have no mercy.
Yeah.
But imagine if they lose an arm or a foot
How
or
would
a
they
foot.
like it if that was done to their children? How would
Right.
they like it?
Exactly.
You know
Exactly,
the
my point.
painful part is the very same parents are the ones that sell their children. That's the part that got to me the most. Is the father does a deal
Yeah.
for money, and they know that the mom wouldn't agree, so they say keep the mom out of it, and the father orchestrates the whole thing.
There's a famous
The
picture of
whole
a little
thing. You
boy.
know, with
Sorry.
the little girl in South Africa that I just spoke about,
Mm-hmm.
they managed to enter this girl's house, and she's 13. There was coincidentally no one in the house, and she was asleep with nothing else but her underwear on. How is that possible? If not for the fact that someone sold her out.
Yes, and that's a setup right there.
That's what hurts for me the
That's a
most. So you
setup.
can't even say to someone, how would you like it if it was your child? In most instances it is their child and they still do it. That part, just I don't know. How do you give birth? You know, the pain of birth, there is nothing like it. And then you allow for someone to do that. There isn't enough money in the world that would make me do that to someone, let alone someone I gave birth to. So I don't know how these parents do it. I don't know.
You see, a lot of cases, they say, oh, it's because of poverty. You know, they're driven mad by poverty. I don't think that's good enough, because there's a lot of places who have poverty. You wouldn't chop up your children like some Sunday roast, would you? Just to get money like that. There must be some, you know, these witch doctors, or, you know, as you say, there's a market in it. Like, it's like that we've been produced, like, you know, when you have like kill the rhino or the elephants, they go for the tusks and for the horns, you know, rhino horns, or shark fins for Chinese to make shark fin soup because it acts as an aphrodisiac or makes them more potent or good luck or whatever. That is the same category they've done with PWAs. You know, we've literally got bounty on our heads, you know, a body part, $75,000, an arm, $5,000, a head, $2,000, you know, literally a shopping list or which parts they want. It's sick, sick.
Yes. And another thing I have to honestly add to it as well is the fact that, you know, I done a talk with Bonnie, I think you may know Pinky. You know, Pinky, and when she mentioned something about family can either make you or break you. And as you mentioned about the girl in South Africa, sometimes I look at that as a thing, I think it's a setup, big setup in a sense of they know what they were doing. They knew what they would do. So they perpetrated this. So it could be a family member that could have known where knew the girl that was there, and this barbaric act happened. Can you imagine what she went through, being raped, then being killed? Then they take her body part and then they distribute it to the black markets or whatever they do with that. And I pray that, you know, no deed goes unpunished, guys. No deeds go unpunished.
That's true.
So thank you, Sylvia, for your input on that.
Okay.
Is anyone else who want to say something in the room? Anyone else? Well,
I think everyone else is still recovering from the trauma.
Boy, it's when I mean, do you know what? As I said before, it's shocking to know that these things are happening in this day and age, but it's no surprise that it's happening, if you know what I'm saying. And as I said before, ignorance is for fools. And you know, when do we lack empathy? When do we lack mercy? Or when do we lack compassion for people? Like, when do we become so heartless and evil? And it's important that we get this message out. And I'm very glad that Sylvia has added all these information, and I'm glad that she's shared this with us tonight. Obviously, time is coming up now. It's almost 9 o'clock in the UK, and I know it's almost 10 o'clock. So, Bonnie, I'm back to you. Your final thoughts on, you know, your journey of albinism, and you know, what is your message to those who are struggling with themselves? What is your message to the PWA community and also the people of color? What is your message to them?
To our PWA community, I would say no one can love you more than you love yourself. And that is an unfortunate truth. And your value should never be placed on how somebody else sees you. Mm-hmm. Tell yourself that every single day until you believe it. We are human beings and propaganda works. And so use propaganda on your own self. You tell yourself every single day that no one can love you more than you love yourself. And your value should never be attached to what someone else thinks about you. I used to literally say that to myself every day, and it works. So that's what I would say. And to those who are who don't have PWA, who don't have albinism, I would say, we, it's cliche in South Africa for us to say we people too, but really we are. And if you just saw it as that, if you can treat someone who is different from you in any other respect, whether it is race, gender, height, body size, whatever, if you can treat them as equals, then there should be no difference here. Whether it is in the workplace, whether it is family, whether it is church, whatever the case may be, we're people. And lastly, if you don't know, ask. That's what I advocate for every day, and I try to promote every day. If you don't know, ask. I would rather you ask me 10 million, even if you deem are ridiculous questions, I'm happy to answer them. Ask, rather than you making unnecessary, ridiculous conclusions based on your ignorance and lack of information. So ask. If you can't understand why my skin turns white when I touch it and then it immediately turns back pink, ask. If you don't know why my eyes are, they never stand still, or go red when I take a picture and there's a flash, it's small things like that that could lead to the kind of ridiculous conclusions you guys reach that could end up ending our lives. So rather ask. And yeah, that would be my parting remark.
Agreed. I think that's a very good point about the eyes as well. Like, I'm so glad you shared that with me. And just to pray, I just pray that we live in a society that people can change their mentality and their perception of a person or people with albinism. And I'm very glad that we can have this conversation tonight. Thank you so much, Boni, for joining me on Albinism Talk. It was a pleasure and honor to have you tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to the listeners in the room who have joined Albinism Talk with Marvelyn. Just to let you know that Yell for Change is an advocacy cause that brings awareness to albinism. So if you would like to be a part of the Yell and Yellow campaign, as you can see, I'm wearing yellow t-shirt for albinism awareness. You can also send us your pictures on Instagram, or if you would like to be a part of Albinism Talk with me, or if you are a parent who has a child or children with albinism, you can also get in touch with Yell for Change Instagram or email yellforchange@gmail.com. Also, please follow Yell for Change on all social media platforms. This episode will be posted on YouTube, so please subscribe to Yell for Change's YouTube channel. All previous episodes of Albinism Talk with Marvelyn is also there to watch. So thank you very much. And remember, Yell for Albinism. Together we stand, together we can. Thank you so much. Much love, and God bless you.